I want you to imagine a vase. This vase is a good quality vase. It's smooth, shiny, and has all the good qualities a vase should have. It's not a perfect vase. It has a couple scratches just from the test of time, but that's fine. It's still a pretty vase. Now, I want you to imagine your house, your apartment, or wherever it is you live, and that this vase is inside your house. Okay, stay with me. This is going somewhere. Now, we're going to put that aside. Now, I want you to imagine one day you're at your house and you hear a knock at the door. So you, being a normal, socialized person, I hope, open the door, and standing on the other side of the door is a man. He looks distraught and scared. He's shaking and nervous. He says, "Hey, look, I'm going to be frank with you. I have nowhere to go. Can I stay here just for the night? I just need somewhere to lay my head." You converse a bit, and you, because you're a nice and caring person, you let him in. You keep talking, and it turns out you two actually have a lot more in common than you anticipated. You keep speaking for a couple hours, laughing and talking, until the man eventually says, "Look, I have a job that pays well. I just really needed to get out of where I was. Would you be willing to let me stay here indefinitely? I'll pay you rent, and I'm happy to sleep on the couch." And you realise that, yeah, your rent's getting a bit high, so some other funding would be helpful. So you tell him this, and he's ecstatic, and he can't stop thanking you. He's so happy and grateful for your kindness that he promises to make sure to pay you on time every month. And you know what? He keeps his promise. He pays every month and covers his own food and other expenses, and he actually becomes a very nice roommate. Okay, now let's skip about 3 months. You and this man are still very content with living with each other, and honestly, you've become more than roommates, if anything, friends. You spend a lot of time with him, but you begin to notice that recently he's had a worried expression on his face. He seems to be thinking a lot and has a nervous look in his eyes. So you, being a nice, hospitable friend, ask him what's up, and he's hesitant at first, but he explains that his childhood home with all of his family has been burned down by some evil people. His family is fine, but now his parents, brothers and sisters are all homeless, and they need a place to stay. You immediately feel very sorry for them, however your funds are low and there's not much you can do. So you explain that you feel very sorry for him, and ask if the local housing authorities are going to do anything. And he responds yes, but the wait time is a while because a lot of other people are having housing issues. You try and console the man for a couple minutes before he asks, "Is it possible they could live with us?" You know that can't happen. Your house is too tiny. The two of you barely fit, let alone a whole family. Your funds are low, and being able to take care of a whole family was not something you expected to do. Definitely not for a couple of years. You know that there's no way they'd be able to stay comfortably, and they may not even be able to put any money towards the rent. So you take a deep breath and bite the bullet. You look him in the eye with a sympathetic look before explaining that he's asking a little too much. This house can't suffice a whole family. You try to sound understanding and apologise profusely because you know what he's going through is rough. He looks at you with a disappointed but understanding look. He nods his head silently before leaving the room. About an hour passes, and you realise that your friend has left. He's gone. You check every room and he's not there, which is surprising because he works during the day, but after work he rarely leaves the house. But he's a fully grown adult. It doesn't matter what he does. He can do what he wants. That 1 hour turns into 3. That 3 into 6. It's time for you to go to bed now, but yet, no sign of him. You think maybe he's gone to his family to check on them and find them a place to stay. You try calling and texting him, yet he doesn't answer, so he must be really busy. Anyway, you go to sleep and expect to see him in the morning, yet when you do wake, he's nowhere to be seen. He must have stayed the night. He'll be home soon. The morning passes, still no sign of him, no answer from his phone as well. Night falls and he's still not here. The next day starts again with no sign of him. A whole week passes and he's not come home, so you begin to think he's left permanently, which was never your intention, but he must have his reasons, and you're not going to stop him. All it will do is make it a bit more difficult to get together rent money at the end of the month, but hey, you got by just fine before he came into your life. A little later that same day, you're sitting on your couch doing whatever it is you do to relax, when you hear a knock at the door, so you stand up and walk to open the door, and you see none other than your old roommate. So you're obviously happy to see him as it's been a whole week, and greet him with a large smile, and he responds with a small half smile. You look over his shoulder and realise there's a few people behind him, maybe about 6. You look at what looks like the oldest man, and he has a striking resemblance to your old roommate. You look at him and ask who these people are. He responds with, "My family, will you let us stay here?" You're surprised by his abruptness, but sigh in response. You explain that we talked about this, and that there still isn't enough space. "But they're all here," he responds. You explain that that doesn't change the fact that there's still no room. You offer for him to come back and live with you because that was your prior arrangement, but he shakes his head. If you're not letting them in, then I'm not living here, he says in an annoyed tone as he stands his ground. You can't do anything but apologise again in an understanding tone. He shakes his head disapprovingly and leaves with his family. For the rest of the day, you try not to think about it. It's out of your control. You shouldn't feel bad, right? This is your house. You paid for it. And the thing with the roommate, that was purely an informal agreement. You weren't tied into any obligation to allow his family to live with you, especially for free. You wake up the next day to once again a knock at the door. You think it may be your ex-roommate and his family again, so you take a deep breath and answer the door. And you weren't wrong, but something is slightly different. Along with your ex-roommate and his family is a police officer. He looks at you dead in the eye and goes, "You need to give this place to his family." You're confused, so you ask why, and he goes, "You have to. As a police officer, I am ordering you." You take a deep breath and try to understand the tense situation. You know you're right, so some random officer can't just come in and order you to give up the property you're a tenant of. You've never missed a payment and you're a great tenant, so there can't be any logical reason. So you ask what the reason is, and the officer sighs and shakes his head, like you did something wrong, and he pulls out a picture. And do you remember the vase I spoke about at the very beginning of the video? The smooth, shiny and good quality vase? The vase that's in your house? Yeah, he shows you a picture of that. You're confused, so you ask what the vase has to do with this situation. The officer replies, "These poor victims had everything taken away from them, their house, wealth and goods, but you have something of theirs." You're confused. This vase came with the house. You don't know exactly how you got it. This vase belongs to this family. It's theirs. It's a family heirloom, and because you have it and it's in your house, this house is now theirs. This can't be right. All because of a vase? You're confused. Your confusion turns to annoyance. Your annoyance into anger. So explain one last time in an angered tone that this is your house, and you slam the door shut. They don't pressure you any further and leave, but you sit on the couch confused and annoyed. You live here. It's your right to stay here. Why are you being forced to leave? Why is this all happening because of a vase? You get it, it's personal to them, but you now have to give up the whole house because of a vase? You sleep the night and wake in the morning. A few hours pass in the morning, and then, again, you hear a knock at the door. You get the feeling it's them again. You open the door to see just the police officer, and he speaks. "Look, I know we didn't get off on the right foot, and I've come to the realization that our demands were a bit extreme. This is your house, and you deserve to live in it." Finally, some reason, you think. They finally come to their senses. It took them so long. Which is why we ask of you to give 20% of your property to the struggling family. He adds, 20%? That doesn't seem awful, but the house is still entirely yours. Why will you just give a portion of it up? He speaks again. They will get the kitchen and half of the living room. You can get the rest. The rest was what? Just the upstairs and the other half of the living room? That didn't seem like 80%. You explain that what you're getting doesn't sound like 80%. "You're forgetting your backyard," he responds. "The yard? You rarely went into the yard. It was empty, and you didn't have the funds to do anything with it. It was pretty much useless." That 80-20 split wouldn't be fair, and besides, it is your house. You sigh and speak to the officer again, and explain that you believe the 80-20 split is not fair, because you're getting the parts that you rarely use. "That's the deal we have for you. We cannot do any better," the officer responds. You can't help but realise how stupid of a discussion this is. This is your house, and you lived here for years, and suddenly you're negotiating how much you get to keep? All because of a vase? This is too much to think about, so you confront the police officer and explain that you'll think about it. You'll come to a decision in a few days. He agrees and leaves your house. You go to bed that night confused. So much has happened, all because of a vase? Suddenly your house isn't yours anymore. What is this? Surely this will pass. They'll hopefully come to their senses soon. A few days pass and another knock. It's time for you to answer, it seems. The police officer opens the door and speaks. "What is your answer?" You stutter over your words because of his aggression. "What is your answer?" He speaks again sternly. You finally speak your mind and explain that you can't just give a portion of your house to some people you barely know, so you're going to have to politely decline. The police officer looks at you unimpressed, like you did something wrong. "Fine, but you've just made my job a lot harder." He huffs and turns around and leaves. Another day passes and you wake to the sound of voices. Loud voices. Loud voices coming from outside. So you look out your window and see groups of people. You recognise these people. They're your neighbours, people from your street. You hear what they're chanting. Give the man his house back. Give the man his house back. The vase isn't yours. The vase isn't yours. You can't believe this. What the hell is going on? They can't possibly be talking about you. How the hell do they even know? This was a private matter. You stay inside as people begin to bang on your windows and your door. You're terrified. You do not know whether someone is about to break in and hurt you. You can't take on all these people. The chants begin to go louder and louder to the point where they overwhelm you. But then they fall silent. Then you hear a knock and you see the police officer is on the other side. He must have calmed down the crowd. You open the door and everyone begins to start chanting again. He looks at you and asks, "Do you still refuse the deal?" You begin to grow angry. What is this? Everyone is chanting like you're the bad guy, like you have to give a share of your house. Life was fine before any of this happened, but suddenly everyone has turned on you. The sounds grow loud as you begin to feel overwhelmed and blurt out a final decline. You shout that this is your house and slam the door. You're breathless. Your heart aches. You feel sick. Everyone outside begins to chant and jeer, but you try your best to ignore it. What has your life become? After about an hour, the crowd disperses and the chants stop. You can finally breathe. You go to bed. You're exhausted and shaken. You do not know what to do. All of this because of that damn vase. You contemplate just going with the deal but shake your head. You have to stand your ground. This is your house and you can't justify just suddenly having 20% less than you had previously. These thoughts circle your head until you pass out from exhaustion. This will soon be over, you hope. The next morning you wake to the sound of loud banging coming from your front door. What is going on now? You walk to the door and the thudding grows louder and louder until finally with a loud crash the door swings open. And on the other side are a few familiar faces. The police officer, your ex-roommate and his family. You stumble back from the impact and yell that they can't do this. They can't just break and enter. The police officer shoves a warrant in your face and explains that they now have governmental approval and all the neighbourhood have decided that this family has the right to live here. You're understandably infuriated. This is your house. They can't just storm in here. You attempt to push your ex-roommate out of your door because this is your property, but in response he punches you in the face. You clutch your cheek in pain, looking in his eyes as he trips you up and punches you in the face again. The rest of the family begin to rush in with suitcases and unload their stuff. The police officer speaks up again. "Oh, by the way, this house is now 20% yours and 80% this family's. You will get your bedroom, a portion of the kitchen, and the small bathroom. That's it. If you fail to comply, the government says I am allowed to punish you for not following the new guidelines of your property." At this point, you're terrified. You nod in agreement as there isn't much else to do. You're shaken, hurt, and confused. You again ask the question, what is going on? This is your house. They can't just take this away. Can they? But you comply, because you're not going to beat a police officer and 6 other people in a fight. The whole day, the police officer stays in the house watching over you, your roommate, and your roommate's family. Anytime you entered the living room, the police officer threatened you so you would leave. You couldn't do anything but stay in your room, get small bits of food, and go to the bathroom. You watch your roommate and their family begin to decorate the living room as if it were theirs. When it isn't, it's yours. They talk about the house as if it were theirs the entire time, not even paying attention to you a single time. That night, you go to bed terrified, no idea what tomorrow has in store for you. You wake the next day and the family is still here. They pay no attention to you, and when they do see you, they greet you with a disgusted glare, as if you are tainting their house. You feel miserable. Your safe haven, your break from the world, your home has been taken away from you. Anytime you entered a part of the house that supposedly wasn't yours, you would be screamed at. The family would threaten to call the police officer, so you have no choice but to step back. Over the coming weeks, the family began to slowly take space away from your already limited space. They increase their domain even more to where you are left with almost nothing. You let it slide at first, but they keep doing it until suddenly most of the bathroom isn't yours anymore. Half of your bedroom isn't yours anymore. You attempt to object, but they threaten to call the police officer again. You argue back, and so they actually call the police officer. The police officer shows up to your door, and you think that maybe they'll understand. This wasn't in the initial deal. the family is not allowed to increase their already massive space. The family explains the situation to the police officer and you try and get your words out, but already the police officer is yelling at you, saying what you're doing is illegal and that this family can do whatever they want with this house and you should be thankful that they let you live here. You're hurt. You don't know what to do. You feel so disheartened. Was this your life now? You can't do anything but comply. Their expansion continued over the next coming weeks, to where you don't even have a bathroom or kitchen anymore. You had to move all your things into your room, which is now a quarter of what it once was. You have to sleep on the floor as they have now stolen your bed. The family begin to laugh at you, insult you. This happens for days. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. At this point, you're beyond miserable. You barely live each day. You have no home, and the family mock you on a daily basis. After a while, you finally snap. You've had enough. You see your roommate and he's on your bed, insulting you and laughing at you, so you break. You pin him down and punch him a few times. You do some decent damage. His face is bloody and bruised, but then immediately he fights back. Him and his family, they take you to the ground and beat you up. They keep hitting you even when your face is bloody and your body is bruised. You beg them to stop, but they continue. They break your nose and grab your arm and break it in two. You scream in pain, but they continue the assault until you can't even fight back anymore. Once they are finally finished, they step back and your roommate calls the police officer. When the police officer arrives and you see him, you think maybe he'll see the state of you and understand the situation. That the force used against you was not proportional to the force you used against the family. You sit here with a broken arm, some broken ribs and a broken nose, whilst your roommate has a cut eyebrow. Your roommate explains the situation and the police officer looks at you and yells in your face, "These people have a right to defend themselves for your horrible actions. You deserve this. If you try anything again, I'll have you arrested," but all they did was self-defense. You're utterly shocked. How could the police officer possibly take their side? After all you've been through, they refuse to help you in anything. You lay there bloody and beaten and you keep getting told that this is your fault. The following days are met with beatings from your roommate and his family. Every day you are assaulted, and you can't do anything about it. Every time they blame it on you, calling it self-defense, and all you can do is sit and take it. They don't just stop there. The family begins to beat you up, even when you're getting food and drink. You can't even eat in peace, and they begin to take all your food and keep it for themselves. A week passes and the assault continues. They've given you a small amount of food, just enough for you to survive, but they don't let anything else get to you, and they continue the assaults. Their reasoning is to make sure you don't attack them again. You beg and plead that you won't, but they don't stop. So here you are now, battered, hungry, thirsty, miserable, helpless. No one is coming to save you. This is your life now. You cannot escape it. This is not about a vase.